Rolihlahla Mandela was born into the Madiba clan in the village of Mvezo in the Eastern Cape on the 18th of July 1918. His mother was Nonkafi Nosekeni and his father was Nkosi Mafakanyiswa Gadla Mandela, principal counselor to the acting king of the Thembu people, Yongintaba Dalindiebo. In 1930, when he was 12 years old, his father died, and the young Rolihlahla became a ward of Jongintaba at the Great Place in Mahekizweni I. Hearing the elders' stories of his ancestors' valor during the wars of resistance, he dreamed also of making his own contribution to the freedom struggle of his people. In Mandela, he attended primary school in Kunu, where his teacher, Miss Midingane, gave him the name Nelson in accordance with the custom of giving all school children Christian names.
When I went to school, the lady teacher, Miss Mdingane, asked, "What is your name?" I told her my African name, Rolihlahla. She says, "No, I don't want that one. You must have a Christian name." So I said, "No, I don't have one." She says, from today, you're going to be Nelson.
He completed his junior certificate at Clarkberry Boarding Institute and went on to Heeltown, a Wesleyan secondary school of some repute, where he matriculated. Mandela began his studies for a Bachelor of Arts degree at the University College of Fort Hare, but did not complete the degree there, as he was expelled for joining in a student protest. On his return to the Great Place at Mkekizweni, the king was furious and said if he didn't return to Fort Hare, he would arrange wives for him and his cousin Justice. They ran away to Johannesburg instead, arriving there in 1941. There he worked as a mine security officer, and after meeting Walter Sisulu, an estate agent, he was introduced to Lazar Sidelski. He then did his articles through a firm of attorneys, Witkin, Eidelman, and Sidelski. He completed his BA through the University of South Africa and went back to Fort Hare for his graduation in 1943. Meanwhile, he began studying for an LLB at the University of the Witwatersrand. By his own admission, he was a poor student and left the university in 1952 without graduating. He only started studying again through the University of London after his imprisonment in 1962, but also did not complete that degree. In 1989, while in the last months of his imprisonment, he obtained an LLB through the University of South Africa. He graduated in absentia at a ceremony in Cape Town, Mandela, while increasingly politically involved from 1942, only joined the African National Congress in 1944, when he helped to form the ANC Youth League, ANCIL.
It was when I came into the African National Congress that I realized that Xhosas are only a part of the African people. That the task of the ANC was to unite the African people and out of them build a nation.
In 1944, he married Walter Sisulu's cousin, Evelyn Mace, a nurse. They had two sons, Madiba Thembekile Thembi and Makatho, and two daughters both called Makaziwe, the first of whom died in infancy. He and his wife divorced in 1958. In 1952, he was chosen as the National Volunteer-in-Chief of the Defiance Campaign with Malvi Kachalia as his deputy. This campaign of civil disobedience against 6 unjust laws was a joint program between the ANC and the South African Indian Congress. He and 19 others were charged under the Suppression of Communism Act for their part in the campaign and sentenced to 9 months of hard labor, suspended for 2 years. A 2-year diploma in law on top of his BA allowed Mandela to practice law, and in August 1952, he and Oliver Tambo established South Africa's first black-owned law firm in the 1950s, Mandela and Tambo. At the end of 1952, he was banned for the first time. As a restricted person, he was only permitted to watch in secret, as the Freedom Charter was adopted in Kliptown on 26 June 1955. Mandela was arrested in a countrywide police swoop on 5th December 1956, which led to the 1956 treason trial. Men and women of all races found themselves in the dock in the marathon trial that only ended when the last 28 accused, including Mandela, were acquitted on 29 March 1961. On 21 March 1960, police killed 69 unarmed people in a protest in Sharpeville against the pass laws. This led to the country's first state of emergency and the banning of the ANC and the Pan-Africanist Congress (PAC) on the 8th of April. Mandela and his colleagues in the treason trial were among thousands detained during the state of emergency. During the trial, Mandela married a social worker, Winnie Madikizela, on the 14th of June 1958. They had two daughters, Zenani and Zinziswa. The couple divorced in 1996. Days before the end of the treason trial, Mandela traveled to Pietermaritzburg to speak at the All in Africa conference, which resolved that he should write to Prime Minister Verwoerd requesting a national convention on a non-racial constitution, and to warn that, should he not agree, there would be a national strike against South Africa becoming a republic. After he and his colleagues were acquitted in the treason trial, Mandela went underground and began planning a national strike for 29th, 30th, and 31st March. In the face of massive mobilization of state security, the strike was called off early. In June 1961, he was asked to lead the armed struggle and help to establish Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation, which launched on the 16th of December 1961 with a series of explosions. On the 11th of January 1962, using the adopted name David Matsamayi, Mandela secretly left South Africa. He traveled around Africa and visited England to gain support for the armed struggle. He received military training in Morocco and Ethiopia and returned to South Africa in July 1962. He was arrested in a police roadblock outside Howick on the 5th of August while returning from KwaZulu-Natal, where he had briefed ANC President-Chief Albert Luthuli about his trip. He was charged with leaving the country without a permit and inciting workers to strike. He was convicted and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, which he began serving at the Pretoria local prison. On 27th May 1963, he was transferred to Robben Island and returned to Pretoria on 12th June. Within a month, police raided Liliesleaf, a secret hideout in Rivonia, Johannesburg, used by ANC and Communist Party activists, and several of his comrades were arrested. On the 9th of October 1963, Mandela joined 10 others on trial for sabotage in what became known as the Rivonia trial. While facing the death penalty, his words to the court at the end of his famous speech from the dock on the 20th of April 1964 became immortalized.
They have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all nations live together in harmony and with equal opportunity. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if need be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
On the 11th of June 1964, Mandela and 7 other accused were convicted, and the next day were sentenced to life imprisonment to Robben Island. On 31st March 1982, Mandela was transferred to Pollsmoor Prison in Cape Town. When he returned to the prison in November 1985 after prostate surgery, Mandela was held alone. Justice Minister Kobe Coetzee visited him in hospital. Later, Mandela initiated talks about an ultimate meeting between the apartheid government and the ANC. On the 12th of August 1988, he was taken to hospital where he was diagnosed with tuberculosis. After more than 3 months in 2 hospitals, he was transferred on the 7th of December 1988 to a house at Victor Verster Prison near Paarl, where he spent his last 14 months of imprisonment. He was released from its gates on Sunday the 11th of February 1990. 9 days after the unbanning of the ANC and the PAS, and nearly 4 months after the release of his remaining Rivonia comrades. Throughout his imprisonment, he had rejected at least 3 conditional offers of release. Mandela immersed himself in official talks to end white minority rule, and in 1991 was elected ANC president to replace his ailing friend, Oliver Tambo. In 1993, he and President F.W. de Klerk jointly won the Nobel Peace Prize, and on 27 April 1994, he voted for the first time in his life. On the 10th of May 1994, he was inaugurated as South Africa's first democratically elected president. On his 80th birthday in 1998, he married Graça Machel, his 3rd wife. True to his promise, Mandela stepped down in 1999 after 1 term as president. He continued to work with the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund he set up in 1995 and established the Nelson Mandela Foundation and the Mandela Rhodes Foundation. In April 2007, his grandson, Mandela Mandela, was installed as head of the Mvezo Traditional Council at a ceremony at the Mvezo Great Place. Nelson Mandela never wavered in his devotion to democracy, equality, and learning. Despite terrible provocation, he never answered racism with racism. His life is an inspiration to all who are oppressed and deprived, and to all who are opposed to oppression and deprivation. He died at his home in Johannesburg on the 5th of December 2013.